Well, welcome everybody. My name is Ken Kent. I'm the founder of Signworld 32 years ago. Welcome to all of our guests today. We have 4 Signworld owners live on camera here, and you'll have the chance to ask your questions, and each one of the owners will answer your questions one by one. So you're going to get 4 answers to every question you ask. We like to go in order where everybody, round robin approach, where everybody asks one question, move on to the next person and the next one, and then at the end come back around for more questions. But I think in the next hour, you'll get most of your questions answered. Before we start out though, I'd like to have our Signworld owners introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their business. So Mike Riley, Starfish Signs, give us the 1-minute bird's eye view of what you do.
Hello, everybody. We're based in San Clemente in Southern California. Been in business for 8 years. My wife and I are actively involved in the business. We've got 4.5 employees. I think there was a question about square footage. We've got about 5,000 square feet. We are still pretty diverse in terms of what we do, but we do a lot of building signs, electrical signs. We like big and complex projects.
And Mike, what's your gross sales goal for this year?
Well, our target pre-COVID was 1.2 million. I don't think we'll hit that. Well, I know we won't hit that, but we do expect to be ahead of last year, which all things considered, I'm pretty happy with that.
Okay, great. And Roger Ricketts, tell us about your business.
Yeah, Roger Ricketts. My company is called Visual Signs. We're based in Orlando, just west of downtown. We've been in business just under 2 years, coming up on 2 years at the end of the year. We are currently in 1,500 square feet rented space. We've got 1 more year on that. I expect we will move once. I think we're only getting a little stretched. We have 3 employees currently, looking at going to 4. We would have been at 4 now if it wasn't for COVID. Our projected 2020 sales, 450,000. I think we'll get close to that. And I think it was asked about the best project. The best project we've had so far in the 2 years is to put graphics through an entire school with different themes. It's a 3.5-month project, and the value is about 40,000. My background is completely unrelated to signs by design, in industrial metals, commercial background. So.
Okay, thanks, Roger. And Eric Gustafson, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. Eric Gustafson. Name of my business is Impression Signs and Graphics. We're located in the Twin Cities area, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been in business a little over 7 years. We are currently renting 5,000 square feet, so that is doubled from the 2,500 we started in, but in the same location. We just expanded in the space next door. We have, for employees, we have 2 full-time, 2 part-time, and we bring in a lot of contractors as needed to do various work for us. 2020 sales projection, I guess currently I'd say around 800,000. And looking at our biggest customer project in our history was last year we did a $150,000 project at a shopping mall expansion, and 100,000 of that was not real glamorous. It was just handicap parking signs and a parking ramp, but it was a nice project. So as far as background, I originally out of college was a CPA. Spent my time in public accounting, consulting, and then finance operations for a large company for several years. So.
Okay, and Jack Werner. Jack, tell us about you.
Hey, everybody. For you to make the webinar more effective for each of you, if you go to the top right-hand corner, speaker view, if you click on that, whoever is speaking will come to a larger screen and allows you not to look at little postcards of each. I joined Signworld in 1995, 25 years ago, as a Signworld operation. Started in 1,200 square feet with one employee. I ended up in 5,000 square feet with staff 11 10 years later, doing about 1.3 million in sales before the days of internet marketing. I then joined Ken at the corporate office to learn his end of the business. And then 6 years ago, I bought Signworld out. I'm now the president owner of Signworld. So when I answer questions today, if it goes to more of my experience running an operation, I'll speak to that perspective. If it goes more towards training and support and other things, I'll speak from that perspective. So depending on the question, my answers will posture to either of those. One last thing here, Ken. Mike Riley, what was your background before Signworld?
My training is biochemical engineering, and so I spent half of my career in medical devices and diagnostics and pharmaceuticals, and the other half in electronics. So perfect training for science.
Okay. All right. Well, let's jump right in. So Kevin Pawlowski, am I pronouncing it right? Pawlowski? Come off of mute, Kevin. A little in the box with your name in it, Kevin, the top right-hand corner, the 3 dots. You can click on that, or you can click on the microphone in the bottom left-hand corner. There you go.
There we go.
There you go, Kevin. Go ahead. Do you have a question for us, Kevin?
Not yet. I'm finishing a printing job. Let's let the other folks go first, and I'll jump in a little bit later. All right?
Okay, we'll get back to you. James Byrne. James, you want to come off of mute? Click the little, there you go. So go ahead, James.
Wow. So thanks for this opportunity, first of all. Can everyone hear me all right? I'm not very.
Yes, we hear you fine. We hear you fine. Go ahead with your question.
Great. Well, so I guess, gosh, I got a lot of them, but
start with one. Give us one.
Yeah, let's just start with one. So for the panelists, what's in your area? What was or is the competition like, as far as, you know, how many other sign or banner, you know, companies are there? And yeah, we'll just start with that.
Mike Riley, how many other sign companies are in your area, and do you worry about it? Is it really a competitive business? Go ahead.
It is a competitive business. There are 1 million of them in our area, but I will say kind of my COVID answer to that is we probably have 0.1% market share in Southern California. So if we can make that 0.2%, it almost doesn't matter what everybody else is doing.
Okay, Roger Ricketts, how many other sign companies?
Yeah, I mean, I echo Mike's sentiment exactly. If you're looking for less than 1% market share, you know, you shouldn't be worrying too much about your competition. But we also have a lot of sign companies local to us, but you know, for the vast majority of them, we very rarely see. I think a lot of the companies have their own basic business. They're content with that. You don't see them. You know, we can identify probably 3 to 4 companies that we do on occasion compete with. But I can tell you, in more cases than not, we find ourselves being people that are self-sourcing us. So it's a question of how you position yourself at the start.
Okay. Eric Gustafson, did we lose you? Sheree, did we lose Eric?
Looks that way. I'll get to the bottom of this.
All right, Jack, your thoughts?
You know, when I opened, I had 10 within a mile, 300 in the county. I could have said I'm too late to the party. I looked at it as an opportunity. If there's that many there's a lot of business. You're going to find that if you show up professionally, deliver the code expeditiously, you're far ahead of the competition. Most sign companies are not very professionally run. They're run by technicians trying to run a business.
Okay.
Eric's back now, Ken.
Yep.
Oh, okay, Eric.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Eric. Did you hear the question?
No, my internet went down in my office, so I'm trying it on my phone.
The question is, how many other sign companies are around you, and do you worry about the competition?
There's a lot. I don't know the exact number. but let's say there's 30 of them within 20 miles for sure. And I rarely worry about the competition. I'm interested in knowing who they are, but I rarely worry.
Okay. All right. Mark Japur. Mark, come off of mute.
Hi, thanks, Tim. My question is about location sensitivity. Have you found, I don't know if there's even an opportunity to find if it matters whether it's in an industrial park on one side of the tracks or the other? Any comments on that, please?
Mike Riley, your thoughts on location?
I don't think location matters in terms of customers. It's more a consideration of employees. You know, where you can draw employees from, and also where the markets you want to go after. So, you know, proximity to those markets, but otherwise I would say it doesn't matter.
Okay, Roger Ricketts.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we don't get a lot of walk-in traffic. We get some. We're actually in a good location for that, but I don't think it's that important. I think it's more a question of efficiency. If you're, you know, being close to your customers and not having to travel long distances to do things like site surveys and deliveries and such.
Okay, Eric Gustafson, location.
Yeah, yeah, we're in a typical business park type setting, and I echo what other people said. You know, make sure it's convenient for you, for one, so it's somewhere you want to be, and for employees, but it's not critical. You know,
Jack, your thought?
You're out by the customer seeing where the project goes. So 99% of your customer interactions are done at their facility, not yours. So location is convenient to you for home, for travel to get to customers close to freeways or whatever, employee, whatever, but location is really not important. So make it convenient to you.
Okay. Derek Miller. Derek, come off of mute. Go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me. My question, I'm going to take a step back approach and ask about how did the overall startup experience and the training go when you first started your business? And I think Eric was the one that had the newest, Roger had the newest business.
So we'll start with Roger. Roger, how was the training and how was your startup?
Yeah, okay. So as far as the training was concerned, I mean, I probably got a little wrong, just circumstances, but I took the training probably a good 2 months before I opened my doors. Hindsight was a mistake. So you need to put the training, you know, as close to your starting out as soon as possible. I mean, there's no getting away from it. The first 6 months is like drinking from a fire hose. I mean, there's not a lot of benchmarks in this business. As far as pricing is concerned or anything like that. So it's, you know, the training will certainly give you a base to equip, but I think it's one of the things I think also is critically important that I thought was really useful is to spend some time with this, other Signworld owners in your area and get a relationship there. That's really important for the first year.
Eric Gustafson, the training and your startup.
Yeah, so training was just prior to our startup, and I mean, from what I recall, everything went well. It was useful. It put me in the right mindset to deal with all the things I needed to deal with and start to understand the things I needed to understand. And also, one of the things I recall out of training was not trying to do too much too fast. You have to sort of evolve and understand and build up your own confidence and abilities as you go. And for us, it's been a slow, steady increase ever since then. So it was good.
Mike Riley, if you can remember way back when, 10 years?
Barely, but the training was good. I would say, in addition to the specifics of what we learned, you know, you're really building a network. And so you need to learn from everybody. You learn from your suppliers, you learn from the people that participate in the training with you. And in our case, you know, I'm part of a really good mastermind group. We actually have the best mastermind group in Signworld. Eric's a member of our group. And I learn a lot from our mastermind group. So broaden the training to include sort of your network. And, you know, I think that's an important part of it.
Jack, your thoughts?
So prior to opening, there's 5 weeks worth of pre-opening training. There's a lifetime of training after that. There's live video conference training and all the facets of business that go on virtually every day for the rest of your life. You just got to look at the calendar, figure out what should schedule in. We've got a blog site where owners post questions daily. We've got supplier tours. We've got an annual convention with ongoing training, the mastermind group, the sales marketing training program. So it's all the bells and whistles of a franchise. It's none of the rules, none of the royalties.
Okay. Blake Cox. Blake, come on from mute. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you guys for having me today. I guess I come from a business ownership background, and I guess my first question is about startup staffing, graphic support, and how you accomplish that.
Mike Riley, how'd you start out?
The quick answer is I think it's important to figure out what model you want for your team. And it's taken us a while to realize that, you know, what's critical, it's very difficult to find people with sign industry experience, but it's, I think, more important to have people that have the right attitude, motivation, et cetera. So, you know, depending on how you want to build the team, you know, I think that's a key part of it. If you want really specific experience, it's a little hard to get. If you want people who are generalists and good problem solvers and so forth, that's a different approach.
But you started out, excuse me, you started out with yourself and one experienced sign maker, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then how long before you hired your second employee?
Pretty quickly, maybe 6 months.
Okay. Roger Ricketts, same for you. Did you start out with yourself and one experienced sign maker?
Yeah, I was fortunate. I found a very, very experienced guy just as I was opening my doors. So it was more luck than judgment. But and he's still with me now. So, and I think that's, you know, it's important to get that first person for a couple of reasons. You know, you want, as the owner, you want to be in the market in the early days, networking and being out there, because that's how you develop the early business. So it's very important to have somebody in behind that's can actually answer the phone.
Okay. Eric Gustafson, same with you. You start with yourself and one experienced sign maker?
Yep. Yep. One experienced sign maker, knew a lot about print technology, color, etc. So for me, oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you fine. Okay. And then how long before your second one?
It was about 6 months. And just to echo what Mike said, you do want to figure out what your culture is and make sure you're hiring people that fit that. However, I would say for your first hire, having somebody who knows how to run equipment is probably equally as important, and build a culture on your second and third. And that's what we did.
Jack, your thoughts?
So we're going to give you the ads to place. We're going to tell you where to place the ads. You'll do the preliminary interviews to make sure it's somebody you can cohabitate with. When you get to your finalists, our technical department will interview them for knowing the hardware and software. I personally went and interviewed them for multitasking, quality control, project management. We then encourage you to ask other more senior experienced Signworld owners to help you do. They have more experience at it. And then pay for a day's wages to have them go work in another location and see how they perform. Because people interview well doesn't mean they perform. It's a lot of help. I did an interview on Monday in St. Louis for a new operation. A gentleman came with 10 years of experience. I did 2 last week in Louisville. They each had about 20 years of experience. So there's qualified staff out there, and we'll help you find them.
Okay. Chad, come on from mute. Hello, Chad. Are you there? Mark Jorrey. Mark, come off of mute.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, thank you all so much for having me on here today. I appreciate this. This is great information. So Roger, I think it was Roger mentioned something a while ago. He said, and I've heard it referenced in several different terms, but he said it's how you position yourself when you start up. And so my question is, how did you determine? I'm coming from a non-sign background, and certainly a business background, but in corporate structures. So how do you determine to position yourself in your company at startup?
Roger Ricketts, I think he was talking more about the culture, but go ahead, Roger. I don't want to put
I'm
words
sorry,
in your mouth.
I've got a bad connection here. I keep going in and out, so I missed the question. So can you?
Okay, Mark, why don't you restate your question for us, Mark?
Okay, just my question is, Roger, something you had mentioned earlier, and yes, to your point, this is about culture, but it's about how do you position yourself as a company, whether it be culture, whether it be what segment of the business are you going for? I'm kind of looking for a, how do you start up? How do I build my business?
All right, so
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, so I mean, one of the things that we did, just listening to the advice of the Jack and the Signworld Owners and such, we positioned ourselves as a professional sign company, with standards and stuff. And I think a lot of times, you show up on time for a site survey and just crisp and on time and do things expeditiously. That alone sets you apart from other sign companies. So as far as products, I mean, in the first 2 years, you really got to approach it from the standpoint of general signage. You're not going to know what the opportunities are in your local market for a couple of years. So I wouldn't be too quick to think about specialization in any particular product. I think that'll come by itself as you'll find out what you're good at and what you're not good at, and what you like to do, what you don't like to do. So, but I wouldn't be too quick to try and answer that question.
Eric Gutchison, your thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it was all about positioning us as somebody who cared about solving your business problems, which ties into our culture that I wanted to create since day one. So, yeah, and we're still 7 years in, we're still a generalist. We do all sorts of different signs. So, it's positioning about doing business with you and why they're going to enjoy doing business with you compared to your competition more than anything.
Okay, Jack, Mike Riley, your thoughts?
Yeah, the quick answer I would say is experiment. When we started out, we had this idea. In fact, our sort of mantra was we were going to distinguish ourselves on the basis of outstanding design. And we learned pretty quickly that with our large corporate customers, they could care less about our design capability. So we've evolved to a model now where we say it's all about flawless execution. But it's really just by experimenting and trying, and you have to adjust.
Jack, your thoughts?
I've been a new owner training all week with several new operations. We spent Monday talking about building the culture, the mission statement, the vision statement. You've been in a corporate environment previously. Now you're inventing your own world. And unlike the franchise where you have to do it their way, we're helping you build it to your style, your strengths. So a lot of that. But in the beginning, it's a customer that has money that needs a sign. You're trying to fill the workflow, and then from there, figure out where you're best fit to the business.
Okay. Nick Savaleef, did I say it right?
Yeah, you did real well. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Nick.
My question to the group is, it looks like you've all come from a variety of backgrounds and coming into the sign business. I'm wondering if you can give me some insight on what's been the hardest part of that transition, and how did you overcome it?
Mike Riley, what was the hardest part of transitioning from your corporate biomedical medical device career into being a sign company?
So that's easy. In my electronics portion of my career, the idea was to make the same thing 1 billion times and never vary anything. In the sign industry, everything we do is custom, so we never make the same thing twice. So it's really problem solving.
Okay, very good answer. Eric Gustafson, what's different about being a CPA and a sign company owner?
Well, and I'll say even more so being in finance operations, where we're trying to build business process similar to Mike that was repeatable, reliable, and without failure. And so for me, the biggest transition was adjusting that there is a small amount of failure where it could be user or equipment-based failure, but things go wrong and you do end up throwing away some of your material sometimes. It's extremely painful. It feels like burning $20 bills. You need to minimize it, but it's also something you have to learn to live with a certain amount of that. So that was a big adjustment for me. Yeah.
Roger Ricketts, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, my background is commercial anyway, so I didn't have too much adjustment for the commercial side. But I think the part that I found hardest to adjust to, particularly in the first year, is you've got to blend the notion of taking the right type of business for the right type of person with, you know, a real, I would, desperation is probably the wrong word, but you really want to get cash into the company as soon as possible. So it's trying to balance that, taking the right type of business with the need to get cash into the company. I found that quite a struggle. We ended up taking some orders that we probably shouldn't have taken, and you know, ended up not making any money on them. So, but that's a difficult thing to do in the first year.
Jack, Werner, your thoughts?
Oh, chances are your biggest challenge is your biggest weakness. If you haven't hired people before, the HR part. If you haven't managed a small business, the finances, it's QuickBooks. If it's managing projects, that's a challenge. If you haven't had customer interface, and that's why you're joining an organization that can help you shore up those weaknesses, those challenges, so that you can become successful at all of them. The other thing is learning all the different types of signs that can be made and all the different materials can be used. So while that's a challenge in the beginning, it's a blessing long-term because it keeps evolving, keeps changing, keeps being interesting.
Jack, are you going to show us your slideshow?
I had several slideshows that I'll show in the background here. So just to preface these for everybody, the conversation will go on with it. There's no audio to it. But the first slideshow just shows some of the facilities inside and out so you can see how unique and different they are. We're helping you build your world instead of conforming to ours. The second one goes to what is a sign, not only what you're able to make in-house with the original equipment, but what you're able to outsource, and then over time, bringing that equipment and do in-house. And the third one is just our wall of fame, showing how complicated the projects can get, bigger projects, more unique projects. So these three slideshows will go on in the background. You can go ahead and continue with conversation.
Okay, Susan Miller. Susan, come off of mute. Hello, Susan.
Hello, Ken. It's Mike Miller, her husband. How are you?
Fine. Go ahead, Mike.
Good. Thanks for the time, guys. We're early stages, so I apologize if everyone else already knows these numbers, but could you speak a little bit to the profitability of the business? If you're talking about 800,000 in gross sales, what's really dropping to the bottom line, your net profit margin, and out of that, what do you see as taking, what have you done to take like income, and then what portion gets reinvested to grow the business appropriately?
Okay, so let's maybe break that down. Mike Riley, year in, year out, net cash flow to the owner being your salary, your bonus, your contribution to your pension plan, your car, your perks, etc. What percent of overall sales, Mike, would you say you run at year in, year out?
Well, it's hard to give a short answer to that because there's so many variables in terms of how you're structured, but our target would be 30%.
Okay. And Eric Gustafson, CPA, net cash flow to the owner, average year in, year out?
Yeah, so my goal is 25%, and just looking at 2019, it was 25. And interestingly, through 3 quarters of 2020, we're still running at 25%. So,
okay. And Roger Ricketts, your number?
Yeah, well, we're obviously just completing year 2, so we're not where we want to be yet. But you know, we're not at 25%, but we're probably more like 15. But we're pretty confident we'll get to 25 in year 3.
Okay, all right. And Jack, your thought?
You know, and in the beginning, because you have a lower total gross, you've got a bigger contribution to some of those fixed expenses, rent, utilities, and that. But most Signworld owners, as they mature out, are running in that 25, even up to 30% more net profit. I ran very consistently at 25%.
Okay. Greg, are you there? Come off of mute. Hello, Greg. Greg, tell us your last name, please.
FISM.
Okay. Go ahead.
How do you keep your pipeline full?
Good question. Mike Riley?
There's the 2 most compelling aspects of the business, I would say. One is there's no shortage of opportunities, and 2, it's high gross margin. So, you know, we've got more opportunities than we can handle. 70% of our sales roughly are repeat customers, and the other 30% is either referrals or from our digital marketing.
So Mike Riley, right now, in dollars, how much is in your pipeline not finished yet?
300,000.
Okay. Eric Gustafson, how do you keep your pipeline filled, and how much do you have in the pipeline?
Yeah, so internet marketing and referrals are two #1 sources of new business, although, and I haven't done the math recently on repeat, but we're well over 50 to 60% of repeat customers. So, we could do more in this area actually, and I've just chosen a slow growth model. So I haven't really invested in a lot of extra internet marketing other than just keeping our site updated and doing some blogging and things like that. So our pipeline, well, I'll call it our work in process, is much smaller than Mike's right now. It's at about 140,000 right now.
Okay. Roger Ricketts, how do you keep your pipeline full?
Yeah, so that evolved over time. I mean, year one, I'm going to go back to the first half of year one, was really exploring personal contacts and results with networking. And that evolved to probably today, where it's the website is definitely producing a lot of traffic for us now. We're still getting business from networking, a little less than we used to, and we're starting to build a referral business. Our referral and repeat business, I should say. Our repeat business now is probably around 20%, and our backlog is around 80,000.
Okay, and Jack?
It's in the beginning, every customer is a customer, but you're trying to go more and more to the repeat customers. You're going to need to do some networking in the beginning to fill the pipeline while the internet starts driving more and more. But most Signworld owners will tell you by the end of the first year, 75% of their new leads are coming from their website. Over time, I ended up with 15 customers that gave me 80% of my money. We work at this very methodically. I've got, as I say, new owners in training this week, and we're talking about how to reverse engineer the whole process. So first establishing what our sales goal is, then determining how many days we have to work on that, what our average order size is, what our conversion rate is, and then determine the activities we've got to do to generate. So we're not just waking up in the morning hoping to have business, we're actually trying to plan for it.
Okay. Esco, Ministo, come off of mute, Esco. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. As an engineer, I have a question related to reliability of equipment. Do you see any particular equipment breaking down more than others, and do you have backup equipment?
Military technology is the application of technology for use in warfare. It comprises the...
Mike Riley, how's your equipment been holding up over the last 8 years?
No issue with equipment reliability. That's far down on our list. Probably our process reliability is an area that needs more work, but equipment's fine.
Eric Gustafson, equipment over the last, how many years, Eric?
7 years. Reliability has been good. We've upgraded our initial printer and added a second, better laminator, but really no major issues with equipment.
Okay. Roger Ricketts, 2 years in business of equipment?
No, we thought we had a problem with our printer, but it turned out to be the vinyl that we were printing on that was the issue. So no, we've had no issues whatsoever.
Jack Warner?
We're beta testing the equipment to make sure that it's not only the latest and greatest for quality, but most reliable. So whether we put it in Miami or Seattle or Boston or Phoenix, we can have it serviceable. Our technical department, the first line defense to make sure that we can figure out what the problem is, get expedited service, because we have a large organization, the suppliers listen to us. I believe in the last year, our digital printers, which is the main piece of equipment, I think we've had about 7 breakdowns out of 350. So it's pretty reliable. And in most cases, other Signworld owners in the market will make for you at cost just to keep you going. They'd hope for the same thing from you. So never out of business.
George Schaff. George, come off of mute. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I was going to ask, how often How often do you find yourself with a employee that quit on you or decided to go do something else, and now perhaps your your operation has has a big dent in it? Does that happen very often, or how reliable are you on an employee, especially in the beginning?
So Mike Riley, I guess the big question is, if you lose an employee, does that puts a big dent in your operations?
There's no short answer to that. It depends on how good your hiring and training and onboarding processes are and all of that. We've been more conservative. You could say, have been overstaffed from the beginning because we didn't want to be in that position. But no, in general, we've been very happy with the team that we've assembled, and we've always been able to operate. That's never been our limiting factor.
Eric Gustafson, the loss of an employee, will that put a big dent in your operation?
I mean, it certainly could. The earlier on you are, the harder that is to stomach if you don't have a backup employee. At the same time, it sometimes can be a blessing in disguise, because sometimes you put up with certain behaviors more than you should as a owner and a boss, and sometimes somebody departing can create sort of a fresh start for building the culture you want to build. So it's not always such a bad thing.
Okay. And Roger Ricketts, have you lost anybody?
No, we've still got the original staff. The only comment I would make is, for the new owners is you really want to try and build your business and get to the point where you can have that third employee as soon as possible, just because, to lose that first employee early would be, it would set you back for sure. So.
And Jack?
Realize that this is not a job for them. This is a career. Once a sign maker, typically a sign maker for life. So you can hire carefully and nurture. It's your chance to hire a small team and treat them like family. I started with one, ended up with a crew of 11. 8 were sign makers, 3 were support people. And the 8 sign makers, they had 131 years of trade experience. I had people with 10, 15, 20, 25 years apiece. They didn't want to leave, and I didn't want them to leave. So hire carefully and nurture.
Okay. Sergio Romero, come off of mute.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the call. One of the questions I have, just to understand, startup and capital and cash flow is, if you guys can try to remember, what was your first fiscal year in sales? We got percentage of profitability, but what were those sales in that first fiscal year?
Mike Riley, gross sales year 1, first 12 months.
I'll give the caveat first and then the number, but we were in a position where we were targeting bigger opportunities right from the beginning. So we structured our approach that way. But our invoice sales in year 1 were 100,000.
Okay, and Eric Gustafson?
I don't even remember. I was just trying to look it up, but you got to me too fast. I think for our first 12 months, we were probably 100 and I'll say 150,000 if I had to guess.
Okay, Roger Ricketts?
We did 180,000 year 1, but the other thing I would say to that is the vast majority of that was in the second half of the first year. So the growth, once the growth took off, it was a pretty steep curve, and it was at some point it was hard to keep up with. So.
And Jack?
I did 430 my first year.
Okay. And hang on. Acidic? Did I say it right?
It's acidic.
Acidic, yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So I have 2 questions. My first question is, how are you getting customers? What's your method? Because from what I read, it's mostly through networking. So it seems a little bit strange. And the second question is, why is this like business? Why isn't there some like, you know, like Coca-Cola, like some big company that's yeah, that's my question.
Okay, Mike Riley, how do you get your business? Is it website, internet? Is it networking? Is it referral? Is it people you already know? Is it cold calling?
It's not cold calling and it's not networking. So it's repeat business and referrals and web marketing. And you didn't exactly ask the question this way, but the way we convert those leads to sales is speed. That's the primary factor.
Eric Gustafson, source of business.
Yeah, so when we first started, networking was huge for us. It's now almost non-existent, and it's referrals and web marketing. And similar to Mike, try to convert with speed, as well as just giving them confidence that we're the right person to work with.
Roger Ricketts.
Yeah, I mean, I think you made the comment that you know, you can't understand why networking would develop business, and I had the same thought when I started out, but it does work. But you've got to make the investment in networking and put the time in with one-to-ones and such. But it does generate early business. And our business also is kind of evolving, where networking is starting to become less important. The website is starting to generate more traffic for us. And we're just starting to see more and more repeat business, some referral business. So I can see where the business is going. I can see, you know, probably a year from now, we won't be doing much networking. It'll be like the other guys mentioned.
And Jack, your thoughts?
The reality is, while the networking, the internet is going to be the main driver of new business, it unfortunately doesn't give you instant results. It takes a number of months before Google really gives it the credibility. So to shore that up, is doing some networking and reaching out to contacts. But again, realize in the beginning, while you're building process procedures, you're not looking for hundreds of customers. Looking for handfuls, because you've got to build that. So the networking will bring that first 10, 15, 20 customers. As you start to evolve over the first year, the internet's going to take over. Over time, it's the repeatable customers in the internet and then the referrals that actually exceed the need for the internet. So the business becomes more self-driving the more longer and longer it's in business.
Okay. Right pen, come off of mute, right? Right pen, are you there?
I'm here.
Go ahead.
I appreciate you guys letting me. I didn't know I was going to be allowed to ask a question. I'm new to this. I'm getting acclimated. I came on a little bit late, and I think I've got an idea now, but it seems to me that Eric, you've been around for 7 years. Mike, you've got 10 years. And Roger, you're in your second year. Roger, you said you are going into your third year. So after 2 years, you're doing about 450 in sales. Eric, you said you're on target. You're thinking 800. And I missed what Mike's projection was. If he could just repeat that for me. So far, what else I'm hearing, I think is good for me right now. I'm too early in the process, so I'll go back to mute. So maybe
Mike Riley, I believe you said your projected gross sales were 1.2 million this year.
That was our pre-COVID target, yes.
Okay. And Eric Gustafson, 800,000, and Roger Ricketts, 450. Okay. Vab, come off of mute. Sethi? Hello, Vab.
Hi there.
Go ahead.
Hey, actually, I'm pretty early in the process myself, and I guess the only question I wanted to ask it right now is, since I'm pretty general at the moment, is what would you say the hardest thing was to make the decision to go ahead and do this?
Question. Mike Riley, what pushed you over the edge? What was the final hardest decision to make?
So it sounds like the question is, what was the hardest decision to make this investment? And that's how I'm interpreting it. I had always worked for multinationals, so I never really considered a small business. I always considered small businesses to be high risk. So that was the hurdle I had to get over.
Okay. Eric Gustafson, what was your biggest hurdle?
Similarly, just considering the risk. I mean, it's a great business model, and it's definitely one that can be successful, but it's still a business, and you still have to manage it, and it can fail, and that's really up to you. And so that part made me a little bit nervous. Luckily, I have a wife who's a teacher, makes decent money, and has good benefits, which made the decision a lot easier for me to take on that risk.
Okay, and Roger Ricketts?
We follow. I mean, my wife and I followed a process where we looked at several businesses and developed a checklist of what we wanted out of the business, and the sign business came to the top. We never really considered a franchise. I read a report about sign franchises not being a great investment, but I mean, I was always quite comfortable going into the sign business. I saw it very clearly, and I heard enough from other owners that there was more than enough business to go around. So that sort of gave me a sense of comfort and sort of really feel a little bit more secure with the risk. So yeah, I really was, I went in with my eyes open, but I was pretty comfortable with it.
Jack Warner?
I think anything in life that you do without investigating, evaluating, comparing yourself to others is a risk. So you've got to do the homework. That's why we say it's a 4, 6, 8 week process to figure out if you belong with us and we belong with you. Comparing yourself to other Signworld owners. Talk to as many as you need to till you get to the point of saying, if they can do it, I can do it. At that point, it's not a risk. At that point, it's a, do I believe in myself question. If you believe in yourself, and if you've been successful in prior life, there should be nothing other than you holding you back from making the success you want to make out of it.
Okay, Brandon Hill. Brandon, come on from mute. Go ahead.
Yes, my question is, post-training and initially opening your doors and those first few months, if there was something you could have did differently or do over, what would it have been?
Okay, Mike Riley, what would you do differently?
Roger has hinted at this a couple times, but it would be to do fewer small projects and really put my time in the areas that are going to lead to the better return down the road.
Eric Gustafson, what would you do differently in the beginning?
I hate to say this, but not much. I kind of just did the things I thought were correct, and in hindsight, I can't think of a bunch of things I woulda, shoulda, coulda done differently.
Okay. Roger Ricketts, what would you have done differently in the beginning?
Probably two things. I think I would have got my website established earlier, because it does take time for the traffic on the website to kick in. So that the earlier you can do that, the better. And then I think this you'll see this is common with a lot of new Signworld owners, is that I think we've underpriced sometimes, so you got to have that, again, balance that need to get cash into the company with with being able to price it right and maximize profitability. But I do think we were guilty of underpricing sometimes. We were told a couple times your pricing is great, which is kind of a big flashing neon light for me. So yeah, I mean, I think they're the two things I wish I'd done a little different.
Okay, Jack Warner, what would you have done differently?
I think the thing that I hear from most Signworld owners is, while Signworld has a very great plan, we're allowed to do it our own way. And I think most Signworld owners that would say that if they could do it over again, they would have followed the plan more closely, not deviate from it, because the plan actually does work. So tweak it where you need to make it yours, but stick to the plan and don't just go off in left field and do what you can just because you can.
Okay. For those on the call, if you have more questions, it might be easier if you just type them in the chat box below. If you have more questions, one of them in the chat box is where several of our owners have mentioned speed, where they return their calls, they get back to the customer right away, they get the project done on time, and so on. And Chad asked, speed implies significant inventory. Mike Riley, do you work on the basis of get the customer, get the appointment, get the deposit, and then order the inventory and only what you need and get next day on site free delivery?
Yeah, we don't have much inventory. So for me, speed was 2-hour response to web inquiries and same-day quotes.
Okay. But once you get the customer and you get the deposit, it's then and only then that you order your raw material from your suppliers, and they give you free next day delivery. Am I correct?
Yeah, in general. I mean, we keep an inventory of certain materials that we use commonly, but not much.
Eric Gustafson, inventory very much, next day's delivery by your suppliers?
Yeah, very little inventory other than the stuff we use almost on a daily basis. Like Mike, speed is all about responding, response times, getting a quote out, and then setting expectations for how long it's going to take to actually deliver the finished product, which can vary from a few hours to a few months, depending on what type of project it is.
Okay. And Roger Ricketts, very much inventory?
No, we've got some vinyl. We've got a couple other specific items. We've got some customers that repeat buy stuff, but it's not, it's not a big investment at all. I just want to just reiterate what the other guys are saying. I mean, speed is amazing. If you respond quickly, that differentiates you. And my experience also is, part of this business, part of the selling business is going on a site survey. And, we find if we're going on a site survey, our close rate is probably, 80 to 90%. So it's, getting to those site surveys is important.
Jack Warner, your thoughts about speed?
Speed is all about how efficiently you run the project. It's not anything to do with inventory. Very, very little inventory.
Okay. George Schaff wants to know, what's a reasonable year-over-year growth rate for your sales? Mike Riley, 8 years in business. Average growth rate?
Lots of twists and turns as the business evolves, but we grew 40% last year and had targeted 40% this year.
Eric Gustafson, year-over-year growth rate?
I mean, I think 20% is a good target. Last year we were 46%. This year I was planning on being about flat just because of some anomaly good stuff that happened last year. So 20% is a nice average growth rate once you're established.
Roger Ricketts, what's your third year growth rate projected to be over second year?
Yeah, well, so I mean, we're going to more than double our sales from year 2 to year 1. We would, I mean, thinking about, I've just started looking at it now, but I would think we're about a 50% growth in year 3 over year 2.
Jack Warner, growth rate?
A lot of that depends on where you're at in the business, because 50% for Roger could be less than the 20% for Eric, just based on the volume. So it's based on the maturity of the business. But you've got to build processes and procedures no matter what level you're growing to, and that's based on your skill sets and abilities.
Esco wants to know, how did you come up with a name for your company? Jack Warner, we'll let you go first on that one.
I was in training without a name, and I needed a name to get some graphics on something. And my 3 boys are Dennis, Danny, and David, so this company became 3D Signs.
Okay. Mike Riley, how'd you come up with Starfish? You were walking along the beach one day and...
We wanted a sustainability theme, and we wanted an ocean connection based on where we are. And then I'll leave aside, Jack's belittling of our choices, but in the end, we were advised that it should be easy to spell, easy to pronounce, and easy to remember.
Okay. Eric Gustafson.
I didn't want to belittle him. I wanted to challenge him that he could make it make sense. And, his tagline was stand out, be noticeable, and what was the third one, Mike? I'm sorry.
Stand out, be noticed, get results.
Okay. Good. Eric Gustafson, how did you pick your name?
Yeah, I've got an investor partner. We just brainstormed and then we whittled it down to where websites were also available, and then just kind of voted, and ultimately we landed on impression. We like the sound of that single word impression and all that it can mean. So yeah, that's about it.
Roger, how'd you come up with your name? And what is it again?
Visual Signs. Visual Signs. So we wanted a name. Again, our thought process was to have something kind of a corporate sounding name, because it's my background and I thought it was a good way to differentiate. So we wanted something crisp and clean, and my daughter's a graphic designer, so I sat down with her one night and out came Visual Signs.
Okay. How do you balance work with home life? Mike Riley, how many hours a week are you working these days?
We work a lot of hours, but the way to do it is to have your wife work in the business, and then you see each other either at work or at home.
Eric Gustafson, work and home balance.
I'd say it's pretty good. I probably average this over the last 6 months, 45 hours a week. And I almost never, even since day one, almost never work weekends. I bet I've worked less than 10 weekends in 7 years.
Okay, Roger Ricketts, work home balance.
I think at this stage, I can safely say that's still a bit of a challenge. It's just not, if I'm not physically in the business, I'm thinking about it 24/7, that's for sure. No, I'm still, still putting in some pretty long hours during the days. I'm typically putting in 3 or 4 hours on a Saturday with catch-up work. But I'm hopeful in year 3 that it can balance out a little bit.
Jack Warner.
The number of hours you put into it is your investment. You pick and choose which hours. I was on Little League field at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 days a week, managing my boys' teams. I rarely work nights, rarely work weekends. You work a lot of hours, you need to delegate more. But the good news is no matter how hard you work, whatever hours you work, the boss always notices because you're the boss. You pick to do it instead of somebody else telling you have to do it. That's a different mindset.
Okay, to my panel, short answers. We have about 2 minutes to get through another 5 or 6 questions. So did the initial equipment meet your needs for the first 3, 6, 12 months, or do you wish you had upgraded any of the equipment? Mike Riley, equipment first year?
No issues.
Eric Gustafson?
Yes, it met my needs.
And Roger?
Yep. No.
Jack?
Yes.
Does Signworld assist new owners with quoting projects until they're good at it? First of all, Mark, please know that we give you a very elaborate pricing system and lots of pricing training. But you can get assistance from, call any of the owners, call the staff, call your pricing trainer. Our owners will be happy to help you with working on quotes. Mike Riley, have you helped other owners work on quotes?
Yes, we have very good software, CoreBridge, and we have a very good users group that meets twice a month.
Okay, and Eric Gustafson, have you helped other Signworld owners with quoting their projects?
Yes, I actually use a different software called Shopbox, but I have worked with other owners on helping them maximize their use of the system for quoting.
And Roger Ricketts, in your first couple of years, did you get help from other owners in quoting projects?
Yeah, there's been absolutely no shortage of help. The forum works very, very well. Mike helped me out with the project yesterday. It's just a case in point. So yeah, it's been more than good. It's been great.
Okay, and Jack, your thoughts on pricing?
There's a lot of help in it. The other owners have all bought into this peer support network system. So a lot of help in pricing.
Okay, Jack, do you want to answer the next question? Vab wants to know, he's from Canada, does Signworld specifically differentiate the plan to fit the market better? Go ahead, Jack.
I believe that the marketing in both US and Canada the markets are very, very similar. At the same point, we won't go beyond that. We don't want to go to other countries and experiment. But US and Canada, we're very confident that we're good to go.
Okay. What % of your sales comes from your backyard versus out of the market? Mike Riley?
80% out of our zip code area, 20% in it.
Okay. Eric Gustafson, what % of your business is in your backyard? What % is outside?
Yeah, I don't know about the zip code area. I've never looked at it that way, but I would say 90% of it is within the Twin Cities metro area and 10% is outside of that.
Roger Ricketts?
95% Metro Orlando, 5% outside.
And Jack?
My contacts were within Orange County, but I had customers in all 50 states where the projects ending up at.
Okay. Mike Riley, how many months were you in business before you broke even cash on cash on a monthly basis?
I don't know. There's no easy answer to that. 2 years.
Eric Gustafson, CPA, how many months in business before you broke even cash on cash?
Really, third month.
Roger Ricketts, how many months before you broke even cash on cash?
Month 8.
And Jack Warner?
Month 1.
Okay. At what point did you recoup your investment? The entire investment of roughly 210,000. How many years in business, Mike Riley?
I don't know. We just haven't looked at the business that way. We targeted growth.
Okay. Eric Gustafson?
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'd have to say, in terms of, my owner income coming out, it probably was 3 years to recoup the initial investment, but I'm not sure.
Roger Ricketts?
Yeah, it's not the way I look at the business either. I'm looking at the growth of the business and my ability to generate money from it. So I'm not necessarily looking at the standpoint of recouping investment. So.
Jack Warner?
Just under 2 years.
So in the beginning, you can't do everything. Did you tell your customer you can't do that, or do you contract it out with another Signworld owner? Mike Riley? In the early days?
No, to a fault. We've said we'd do anything, and we still struggle with that sometimes.
Eric Gustafson?
Yeah, we say yes to most projects, and contract it out to either Signworld, or there's a whole slew of specialized suppliers to solve many signage problems.
Roger?
We've taken some risks. Some of them have been spectacularly successful. Some of them were marginal.
Jack?
It's a maturation of the business. Ken, I'm going to have to leave in just a minute here because I've got new owner training. But I want to ask the owners one last question if I can. We've all talked about COVID. I know we all had a hiccup in March, April when we shut everything down. What's it been like since then? How busy are you right now? And do you feel safe in your business with COVID by the fact that you have only a few employees in the building and you're not close with customers? So Mike, what's life like in the business with COVID?
So from a business perspective, there's still plenty of opportunities. They're different, but there's plenty of them out there. In terms of safety, we have a strong focus on safety for protection of our employees as well as customers. So we are comfortable doing everything that we're doing, but we do take lots of precautions.
Eric?
Yeah, as far as the impact on the business, our third quarter was spectacular, best yet. So after that hiccup, it's been solid. And as far as the safety factor, definitely try to be more cautious, but I don't think myself or any of the employees have a fear factor in terms of coming to work.
Roger?
Yeah, I think what the COVID did for us is probably just slowed our progress down this year. I don't think it stopped it. There's still opportunities out there. Just there's certain, obviously being in Orlando, there's going to be sectors that will be badly hit here. So, but no, we've put in our own protocols, and we're good. So.
Okay, and we're about 5 minutes over time. Jack, do you want to close it out?
Yeah, I appreciate Mike and Roger and Eric being here. We know you guys are busy. We appreciate taking time in your day. For those that have been here, hope this has been helpful. Please reach back out to Ken, Dan, or myself and continue conversations. We'll have another webinar like this 3 weeks from today on November 4th with a different panel of owners. So lots for us to help you out, figure out if this makes sense or not. In the meantime, stay healthy and best wishes. Thank you all.